Shalum, Shalum, and welcome. Welcome to White Rose family. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening, set-apart nation. What you see here is a list of the 7 major feast times, and I believe they do have a purpose beyond just eating and coming together, my brothers and sisters. I believe, O Yashar'al, that there's a purpose embedded in the feast times, a purpose with steps to building maturity and unity among a set-apart nation. Since I've spoken on this often in the most recent publications, I will not spend too much time on this. But I say to you this, O Yashar'al, if you're looking at these steps, imagine taking one of these steps out, 2 or 3 of them out. How can there be unity among Yashar'al if we don't recognize the building blocks that builds unity? If we don't recognize the tools that the Almighty Father Yahuah gave us in the name of Yahusha and made known. Yes, there's a literal side to the feast times, but there's also a spiritual side, something that can be passed down from generation to generation. Before I get into this installment, this is the 41st installment, my brothers and sisters. And before I get into this installment, I must read the following. Warning and disclaimer. The information contained in White Rose family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence and or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Also note, I am not affiliated with any other group or ministry with similar names. With that said, let's get into this 41st installment of White Rose family. My brothers and sisters, you may see the color blue. I use the color blue to represent the word of the Almighty Father. For we hear and we read in the scriptures that the washing of water by the word, and water, blue can indeed represent water. I do this not that I am ordered to, but by permission to help me and to help those who want to understand the dynamics of the steps of the feast days. And I say with the word, coming off of Passover, we see the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Here, this is the importance that we are to learn is how to distinguish between right or wrong, good and evil. This 41st installment, the title is Navigating During Urgent Times. Navigating During Urgent Times. My brothers and sisters, in order to discern right or wrong, as we begin to navigate during urgent times, we're going to need to know, should we go left, right, forward, or backwards? Should we be still or should we move? And when must these things be applicable? Urgent times are coming. Ask anyone who lived in Australia. Ask anyone who have lived in some of the ravaged areas of California where the flames have consumed much of the lands. Ask anyone in South America who is fleeing because of famine and pestilence in South America. Ask anyone in China who desires to get out because of the heavily polluted areas, the air pollution, the quality of air, the quality of food even. Ask anyone in India where famine and pestilence. Ask the question of when do they think it's time to move? Ask anyone in Flint, Michigan, where the waters are contaminated or have been contaminated. Ask anyone in any area where it is becoming more and more uninhabitable for men, women, and children. You see, my brothers and sisters, urgent times are coming, and we will need to learn how to navigate, where to go. Come with me, my brothers and sisters, as I read the following. Beliefs bring expectations. Beliefs, I got brings, but it should be bring. Beliefs bring expectations. Actions and movement follows. You see, my brothers and sisters, we may have a belief. We may shout, obey the 10 commandments, the laws, and statutes. We may talk about the Almighty Father Yahuah as our Father, an Almighty One. But make no mistake, actions are required in this walk, in this journey. Actions that will be measured one towards another against the scriptures to see if they are indeed set apart actions. Movement will follow, my brothers and sisters. Let's begin with managing confidence. Let's talk about the matter of confidence. Come with me to Numbers 14th chapter, verse 39 through 42. The book of Numbers, 14th chapter, verse 39 through 42. It reads as follows, my brothers and sisters. And when Moshe spoke these words to all the children of Yashar'al, the people mourned greatly. And they rose up early in the morning and went up to the top of the mountain, saying, See, we have indeed sinned, but we shall go up to the place which Yahuah had spoken of. But Moshe said, Why do you now transgress the mouth of Yahuah, since it does not prosper? Do not go up, lest you be smitten by your own enemies, for Yahuah is not in your midst. I say, let's begin with managing confidence. Numbers 14th chapter speaks of a time when Yashar'al had experienced deliverance. Yashar'al had experienced much at the hand of the Almighty Father Yahuah. And they became very confident that they were the children of Yahuah and that they can do almost anything that they want, that they can move as they will. And here we see Moshe. Here we see him telling them, wait a minute, why do you want to do this? The Almighty Father is not with you. And if you read the entire 14th chapter, you'll see they went up anyway. They didn't want to listen to him. So they navigated up the mountain and they was chased right back down, many killed. You may ask, what is this applicable to? End times are here, my brothers and sisters. There are many talking about you need to move. There are many saying you need to come to the promised land now. There are many saying you need to move from where you are now. It is important that you, the person in the mirror, is willing to stake your life on where you move, when you move, and how you move. Seek to discern what the Spirit of Yahusha is saying to you, whether it be directly or through another. Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, to move prematurely and the Most High isn't with you can result to pain, regret, and possibly even death. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. For some reason, people don't want to talk about the realities of the written word, the severity of the written word. But believe it or not, all is real that is made alive by the scriptures and more. The Almighty Father has a plan. And that plan consists of many details and processes. Let me continue to read, my brothers and sisters. Keep in mind, whatever your belief is, it will bring expectation, actions, and movement will follow. Now, my brothers and sisters, be mindful of who you or we follow. Now, the print may be small, so allow me to read. This is Numbers 16th chapter, 23 through 33. Then Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the congregation, saying, Move away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moshe rose up and went to Dathan, Abiram, and the elders of Yashar'al followed him. Again, this is Numbers 16th chapter, verse 23 through 33 that I'm reading. 26th verse. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, Please turn away from the tents of these wrong men. Do not touch whatever belongs to them, lest you be consumed in all their sins. Then they moved away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives, and their sons, and their little children. And Moshe said, By this you know that Yahuah has sent me to do all these works, that they are not from my own heart. he says, it goes on to say, 29th verse, if these die as all men do, or if they are visited as all men are visited, then Yahuah has not sent me. But if Yahuah creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, or the grave, then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahuah. And it came to be, as he ended speaking all these words, that the ground under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and with their households, and all the men with Korah, and with all their goods. So they and all those with them went down alive in the grave, or Sheol, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. End times are here, my brothers and sisters. That was Numbers 16th chapter, verse 23 through 33. Read the entire 16th chapter of Numbers, my brothers and sisters. Here you would see that there was a time when there were those who challenged the leadership of the Almighty Father. In today's age, we would probably call it a gigantic sinkhole opened up and swallowed them. But notice it took their wives, their children, even the little ones, and all their belongings were swallowed up in this sinkhole. Yashar'al, navigating during urgent times. This was a time when Yashar'al had come out of Mitzrayim, or Egypt. And there were some doubts by some. There was some rebellion in the camp. And the Most High set an example to prove those whom he is leading. During these end times, my brothers and sisters, navigating during urgent times is important. It's critical. And there will be those who will navigate ahead of destruction, ahead of the congestion and chaos. And there are those who will be caught in the midst of it that may barely escape. And there are those who will not be able to escape. Urgent times. What will bring about these urgent times, my brothers and sisters? Famine and pestilence, as written in the scriptures. Earthquakes and volcanoes. Civil unrest, chaos, and more. Look around, O Yashar'al. I did a recording talking about the X Factor, the scroll, the X Factor, and exits. If you get a chance, take a look at it. For there are virtual arrows pointing back to the promised land, my brothers and sisters. Urgent times will come. I fear that many will indeed be caught in congestion, and I continue to speak and shout the warning. Seek to discern what the Spirit of Yahuah is saying to you in Yahusha's name. Are you to shelter in place? Are you to remain where you are and be the final words for Yahuah? As you watch and look at death in the face as widespread destruction come, will you show the strength of one who is not trying to protect his own life, but one who will sacrifice his life for Yahusha's name? My brothers and sisters, as things ramp up, the cowards will be revealed. The undiscerning and unlearned will be revealed. Those who think more highly of themselves will be revealed. You can ask questions, my brothers and sisters. Begin to ask questions with a heart and mind to see clearly who you should be with in fellowship, what community, what camp, what fellowship, what group that he is directing you to. Don't you want to see clearly, Yashar'al? Are you tired of being burnt, misused, abused, taken advantage of? Are you tired of not knowing, not growing? The time is now, O Yashar'al. Begin to ask questions. There are some words at the bottom of the screen that you can use to formulate your questions to those whom you follow, those whom you are in fellowship. There's more regarding navigating during urgent times, my brothers and sisters. Don't wait till the last minute to realize the person can care less about you, or to determine that the person doesn't understand the magnitude of the love that you expect from him or her. Let me continue. My brothers and sisters, I want to read the following. Proverbs 10:17. We must know when to stop. We must know when to move. Proverbs 10:17 read, he who heeds discipline is in the way of life, But he who refuses reproof goes astray. Do not balk against discipline. Do not fight against the discipline of the Most High. Matthew 24:11 say, and many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. You see, my brothers and sisters, there are times to stop. There are times to not follow, not continue on with someone who will lead you astray. Matthew 24:24 says, for false messiahs and false prophets shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the chosen ones. You see, my brothers and sisters, it is important that we recognize that there will be those who will lead individuals astray, brothers and sisters who will be led astray. And in the discipline of the Almighty Father, they will either find themselves facing the grave and going to sleep until judgment day, or they will find reproof and correction and learn how to get under the blood of the Lamb and come away from such decisive and wicked, ill leaders or disobedient leaders. There are some leaders that are our brothers and sisters, and they will stumble and fall just like any one of us could, but they will accept the discipline. And it can be a discipline that brings them new before us and stronger and set apartness, or it could be a discipline that leads to sickness and or possibly death. I'm not trying to scare anyone, my brothers and sisters. Let us just be mindful of the realities. Throughout the scriptures, there is life and death. There is the hand of the Almighty Father, and there is his mercy. There is his favor, there is comfort, there is strength, but there is also his discipline. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, what say you? What are you doing to minimize becoming led astray? There is more. My brothers and sisters, let me read the following, because there will be a falling away. There will be those led astray. There will be a falling away. Consider 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 through 6. It reads, let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first. And the man of lawlessness is to be revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called the Almighty One, or that is worshiped, so that he sits as the Almighty One in the dwelling place of the Almighty One, showing himself that he is the Almighty One. Do you not remember that I told you this while I was still with you? And now you know what restrains for him to be revealed in his time. My brothers and sisters, there'll be a falling away, as the third verse. That was 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 through 6. I wanted to bring your attention to the 6th verse. I made it bold, underlined. Notice the word, that which know what restrains for him to be revealed in his time. My brothers and sisters, there's a restrainer that is holding back the anti-Messiah, known as the Antichrist. There's a restrainer. And I submit to you, those who will be gathered from the four corners of the earth, those who must be moved to specific points where the Almighty Father will have them to be. We who are walking among the obedient, we are that restrainer. And some people will read that passage and believe that that means that there will be a rapture. There will not be a pre-tribulation rapture, my brothers and sisters. But there will be a gathering from the four corners of the earth. Right now, the anti-Messiah and false prophet wants to take over and manage and govern the entire world. But we who are restraining him must and will be moved out of the way for him to do what they feel they must do. But the children of Yashar'al, we will be gathered from the four corners of the earth back to the promised land, where the focal point, the axis of that gathering, will be the true Mount Sinai, currently known as Jabal al-Lawz. It resembles the picture that you see above. Yes, my brothers and sisters, Jabal al-Lawz, situated in the northwest quadrant of Saudi Arabia, is the true Mount Sinai. And most recently, the Saudi government have began to allow tourism to come closer to it when it was most isolated in previous years and most guarded. The signs of a relief, the signs that bring expectations that it will be released to the children of Yashar'al, have begun to sprout regarding this gathering. The restrainer is eager to take control. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. There will be 2 witnesses as mentioned in Revelations chapter 11. And I believe that they are the ultimate shepherds, and they will begin to speak. Let the people of Yashar'al, the people of Yahuah, let the people go. And they will speak things that are reflective of what is written in chapter 11 and more, my brothers and sisters. You see, greater is the author and the leader of all actions of set apartness than the black and white, the text. We read the text and think it stops there. There is so much beyond the text, my brothers and sisters, and we will grow to understand it. We will move and we will understand navigation is necessary. Let me read the following, my brothers and sisters. And as I said, there will not be a pre-tribulation rapture. 1 Corinthians 15th chapter, verse 50 through 53 reads as follows. 1 Corinthians 15th chapter, verse 50 through 53. And this I say, brothers, that flesh and blood is unable to inherit the reign of the Almighty One, neither does corruption inherit incorruption. See, I speak a secret to you. We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible has to put on incorruption, and this mortal to put on immortality. At the last trump. My brothers, just as I encourage you to ask questions, I prayed and I asked questions. And I believe that the Spirit of Yahusha was saying to me, this caught up into the clouds in the twinkling of an eye. It's a time when Yahusha is coming back. And right when he come back, my brothers and sisters, there's a time when he come back when he will lift up those that are alive, and those that are dead will be resurrected. That time will come. It will be like a lifting up to bring about the final destruction for the surface of the earth. You see, there are scriptures that say the earth is everlasting, and there are scriptures that talk about the earth melting. And again, I ask, how can these both be the same? You can destroy layers of the earth, and it's not the entire planet gone. And I believe the layers will go deep, and the earth will melt. If many of you are aware, and if you're not, when volcanoes erupt and the lava come up, that magma is what some of it is called. When it comes up, it's like molten rock. It forms new landmass. This is how some islands are formed. This is how new territories, or should I say territories, are made anew. And the scriptures talk about the earth melting. It talks about it consuming. But it didn't say the whole planet. So, my brothers and sisters, there will be a melting. There will be that final destruction before the new Jerusalem comes down and descends. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, I believe the Spirit of Yahusha said, I will lift them up, plant a new Jerusalem, and we will come down to it. You see, when they say caught up in the air, it didn't say we go up in the air and we stay with him. And there's another passage that talk about being in heaven. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, could a new Jerusalem, could a new earth be contained within heaven? Who among us can say, what are the boundaries of heaven? How tall is it? How wide is it? What does it encompass? Pray, O Yashar'al. There will not be a pre-tribulation rapture. And soon and very soon, evidence will come. My brothers and sisters, for some reason, people want to avoid the realities of what's unfolding. Let me continue. Yashar'al will witness understanding regarding many members, but yet one body. In other words, we will come to recognize how many members can be one body, how we can function in unity, and what is necessary to bring us to that. We will decide, I shouldn't say decide, we will discover evidence of how unity will come. It is my belief that the Almighty Father has said, tribulation times, hard times, end times are necessary to weaken the body, to weaken the mind. For as we are weakened, then we are more readily to serve and to seek him, those that are indeed his children. We are more readily to listen to what he has to say. Now, many of you might say, well, what scripture are you going for? Where are you going by? Where you get that from? My brothers and sisters, if you search the scriptures, you will find that there was a time when famine, hunger, and disease existed. And Israel said, buy us and our cattle. And I believe it's the 47th chapter of Genesis. And I've mentioned this before, my brothers and sisters. It's in Genesis, I believe it's 47th chapter. Let's see here. 47. Bear with me, my brothers and sisters. And I will share with you exactly where it's at. Just in case there are those who think I'm just pulling this off the top of my head. Genesis 47:19. Hear these words, O Yashar'al. Why should we die before your eyes, both we in our land? Buy us in our land for bread, and let us in our land be servants of Pharaoh, and give us seed, and let us live and not die, and let the land not lay waste. I say to you, Yashar'al, hunger will make one willing to sell them their own souls. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, you who are the children of the Almighty Father, we will find in discipline that when we are weakened, when we face hunger and pestilence, we will learn how to cry out before the Almighty Father for strength and fortitude to press on in his plan. Now let me read what I have posted. 1 Corinthians 12:12. For as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is the Messiah. We will learn the many members are yet one body and what is necessary to move in unity, O Yashar'al. Romans 12:4-5, for we have many members in one body, but all members do not have the same function. So we, the many, are one body in Messiah, and members each one of one another. We will learn, O Yashar'al, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11-16, and he himself gave some as emissaries, and some as prophets, and some as evangelists, and some as shepherds and teachers, for the perfecting of the set-apart ones, to the work of service, to a building up of the body of Messiah, until we all come to the unity of the belief and of the knowledge of the Son of the Almighty One, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the completeness in Messiah, so that we should no longer be children, tossed and borne about by every wind of teaching, by the trickery of men and cleverness, unto the craftiness of leading astray. But maintaining the truth in love, we grow up in all respects into him who is the head, Messiah, for whom the entire body, joined and knit together by what every joint supplies, according to the working by which each part does its share, causes growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. That was Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11-16. My brothers and sisters, Yashar'al, I cannot say enough. We will discover out of the discipline from the Almighty Father. We will learn how and when to move. We will know how to prepare to navigate. We will either know our directions or we will be attached to someone who does. Those who must and will fulfill the gathering from the four corners of the earth. Make no mistake, trust the words of the Almighty Father. And in our belief, the expectation will come and the fulfillment will come of knowing how and when to move. Let me continue, O Yashar'al. My brothers and sisters, there are those who we will find among us that are wicked. They will ignore preparations for navigating the storm being end time conditions. There are brothers and sisters who will be overtaken. Part of those led astray. They will learn not to ignore. We who can discern and recognize what the Almighty Father is saying, we will learn how to move and move accurately, O Yashar'al. Prepare to witness what it takes to come away from those who ignore preparations for navigating the storm. Prepare to know what must be done. Consider these words, my brothers and sisters, as I read Genesis 6th chapter, verse 14 through 16. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and outside with a covering. And this is how you are to make it. The length of the ark is 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, its height 30 cubits. Make a window for the ark and complete it to a cubit from above and set the door of the ark in its side. Make it with lower, second, and third decks. Let me pause, my brothers and sisters. You see the next verse I'll read is Genesis 7:6. You might say, well, what does this have to do with this subject? And I say this, my brothers and sisters. Do you think there were spectators as Noah and his children were building the ark? Listen to the size. We might not know what a cubit is. We may not know the measurements precisely. But the whole, those that were contained in the ark, we know it was huge. So the wicked watched him build this ark, and they ignored preparations for navigating through the flood. You see where I'm going with this? They ignored, he was building that ark for some reason. And that ark was going to move across the waters and navigate to wherever the Almighty Father would have it to land. But they ignored it. All that time, you see, we get impatient, especially today we get impatient. We in a fast-moving society these days. The world has become one who wants things quick and in an instant. And I say to you, how many of us are watching people prepare right now and just ignoring it? Do not ignore the preparations for navigation, my brothers and sisters, for soon and very soon, movement will come across the face of the earth like never before. It has already begun in many places. Just because it hasn't reached your door, do not believe it has not begun. Genesis 7:6 says, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were upon the earth. Genesis 9:28-29, and Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. My brothers and sisters, we see Noah. We see a time when he obeyed the Almighty Father. You know, the scriptures tell us that just as in the days of Noah, so will we witness people acting today. My brothers and sisters, the importance of discipline. We will begin to appreciate it opposed to fighting it. We must begin to understand the importance of knowing north, south, east, or west. Knowing that it is very important to know our directions as the Almighty Father began to guide us, as he began to work through the leaders to guide us and direct our footsteps as we move towards the promised land, or to that point where he would have us be, to face physical death for Yahusha's name, or to echo the sentiments of set-apart life. So people who are in the path of widespread destruction will still hear the last words, for there will be brothers and sisters who will perish. And they must know that it is the plan of the Almighty Father, and not to despair, because destruction of these earthen vessels will come and they will find themselves caught in it. It's time for us to understand we must ramp up our understanding, our expectation, our knowledge of the power of these inward spirits within this earthen vessel. We must know that these earthen bodies will go to the dust. We must begin to understand the dynamics of what is it of us that lives forever. It is our spirit. I say to you, O Yashar'al, embrace the inward man that is linked with the spirit of the Almighty Father in Yahusha's name. Know that discipline is important. Let me read the following, O Yashar'al. The wicked, undiscerning, and uninformed. Yes, they will reject the need to prepare for navigating the storm. And this is what I spoke of earlier about the days of Noah. It even mentioned the days of Lot. Luke 17, chapter, verse 26 through 29. Luke 17th chapter, verse 26 through 29. It reads, "And as it came to be in the days of Noah, so also shall it be in the days of the son of Adam. They were drinking, they were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah went into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. And likewise, as it came to be in the days of Lot, they were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. But on the day Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and sulfur from heaven and destroyed all. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, the importance of discipline, knowing our directions, knowing what to expect in these final days. Belief is a tough thing. Read Hebrews 11th chapter and learn how it's impossible to please the Almighty Father without belief. My brothers and sisters, there are going to be some of us that will shout, "Hallelujah, I made the right decision. I moved at the right time. I was spared from the destruction." There are some who are going to shout, "Hallelujah, the plan of the Almighty Father is unfolding. And though I may not make it to the promised land, witnessing his plan come together, witnessing the reality of the presence of all that is prophesied coming to be as much as he has granted me to see, I say hallelujah." And there are those who will shout, and there are those that will cry, thinking that the Almighty Father have abandoned them. Do not despair, my brothers and sisters. The plan of the Almighty Father is real. Establish a ready mind. Identify elements of that plan. Identify the tasks that different members have. You are important, my brothers and sisters. Yes, you who are listening to this message, you are important. Every member of the body of Yashar'al is important, very critical. Let us bind together in the love that the mighty Father, in the name of Yahusha, have bestowed on us, have showed us. Let us learn how to subject ourselves one to another, as it reads in Ephesians 5th chapter. And though the literal is speaking about husbands subjecting themselves to wives subjecting themselves to their husband, know that the husband shall treat the wives as Yahusha treats him, so shall we treat our wives, according to the scriptures. Know that our wives are vessels as well of the Spirit of the Almighty Father, that he dwells in them. Know the full dynamics and structure that the Almighty Father have. Know that marriage is something that's temporary, for in resurrection there is no marriage. We will learn all the dynamics of what it takes to bring unity among a set-apart nation. And in the midst of discipline, we will recognize a plan coming together. What say you, O Yashar'al? White Rose has a plan, and I speak of it often and with each end to each segment. That plan is to build a set-apart team of leaders that have been vetted, examined, and proven to be chosen by the Almighty Father. A team of set-apart leaders to develop an information and resource center, literal, physical, and virtual, providing answers to questions that people have, providing information, guidance, directing people on how to fulfill the tasks that they are assigned by the Almighty Father. To build a team of individuals identifying specific skills, education, experiences that they have, identifying those who have found favor and have the ability to mentor the young, the unlearned, even the old that are unlearned, to develop that team fitly joined together in unity, to purchase land in Virginia, which I believe is the exit point on the Western Hemisphere for all those who are on the Western Hemisphere that will return to the promised land in mass numbers. I believe we will leave. Migration will come, and it will not happen in an instant. Soon and very soon, man will begin to move as the Spirit of Yahuah increases the conditions that will force migrations to fulfill what is written. Yashar'al, White Rose family, builds on a plan to provide guidance and support for completing the journey. Identify safe zones where you can stop and fuel up and rest up, trusting and believing that there is protection in the name of Yahusha, knowing that you would be guarded as the Most High will provide all that is necessary to protect those whom he's calling from the four corners of the earth. White Rose family has a plan to provide guidance for the inner court, those that are set apart, who will find themselves coming together, waiting on the physical return of Yahushua Mashyach. And with all and any plans, my brothers and sisters, there are costs. Count the costs, O Yashar'al. Movement comes. There will be costs. There will be sacrifices made. There will be skills that will be utilized. There will be resources that will be used for the building up of a set-apart awakening nation. And there will be those who will lose the things that they have. As the mark of the beast come, they will find that the money that they have no value. Fresh water and food will be the currency. Believe it or not, O Yashar'al, it has begun. And the theater that you see in politics and the world theater that you see is to mask the conditions of a dying world, O Yashar'al, in an effort to present a plan of what they would call hope. But you who are in the inner court, you who are set apart by the Almighty Father, you who are drawn to Yahushua Mashiach, it is we who recognize that the plan of the Almighty Father is bringing about all that is necessary to fulfill what he has promised and what has been foretold. If you're receiving anything that contributes to your growth and maturity, that represent life, that pushes you closer to the Almighty Father Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha, my brothers and sisters, consider it a responsibility to subscribe and gather more information, to share with others. Do not hoard if you believe there is value in these messages. Share it with others, my brothers and sisters. Believe it or not, by sharing it with others, in some cases, someone might hear something that you didn't hear. Some might get something that you miss. And not just with White Rose family messages. It's with anyone whom you believe is teaching or providing information for you to grow and set apartness. By sharing with others, by encouraging others to listen as well, we can discover, are we receiving the same message? Because sometimes, my brothers and sisters, sometimes we tend to hear differently. We tend to see differently. And sometimes this is because of the way we have been raised or programmed or conditioned. Rise up, O Yashar'al. The things that we have received from the Almighty Father, the favor we have found, let's use it or lose it. Choose wisely. End times are here, my brothers and sisters. Everyone agreed, well, not everyone, most people who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father agree we are in the end times. Most people agree and believe that there won't be a pre-trib rapture. Many among Yashar'al are beginning to recognize that we must move. At some point, there must be movement. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, do you know how to navigate through these end times? Do you know what is expected of Yashar'al? What are you going to do? Navigating during urgent times. There are no rewind buttons. There are no retakes. The importance of knowing how to look forward. And I say this, my brothers and sisters, those whom I find to be disobedient or have stepped out of set apartness, those camps, communities, those leaders who hear these words and know that I'm against some of the things that they're saying, just as much as they may be against the things I'm saying. What is true will be proven. Evidence will come in our discipline. And I am willing to yield to set apart instruction, reproof, and correction when I stumble, when I fall. I understand the power of the blood of the Lamb. And I say to you, pause and pray and seek earnestly to discern. If you know that you're doing something wicked, if you know you're stumbled and fall, but you don't want to lose face, so to speak, you don't want to lose credibility, so to speak, you're concerned about your ego and pride, know this, to get under the blood of the Lamb, the quicker you do it, the more you can rise up anew. And we who are renewed by the power and might of the blood of the Lamb and his set apart spirit working in us, we will come together in unity, O Yashar'al. Enough said for now. Navigating during urgent times is a critical subject. Begin discussing these matters, O Yashar'al. I salute your patience, your tolerance, your pursuit of set apartness, your desire to do the will of the Almighty Father. And with all the love I can desire from you, I give to you as the Spirit of Yahusha gives to me. For I can only love you as Yahusha loved me, as I know the love that he's given to me. End times are here. Our emotions will understand that within is something greater than the emotion, the feelings. Rise up, O Yashar'al, and receive all that the Almighty Father have. In the name of Yahusha, I say to you, Shalum.